I believe Regis Prograis when he said he really wanted to put on a show in his hometown. It had been 5 years since he had fought there, and coming out and putting on a spectacular performance would have just been electric. And I believe Eddie Hearn in the post-fight, when right in the ring, he said that he thought the fight was poor. And primarily, he blamed Zorrilla. Eddie said that they chose him because he thought that he would come out to fight, thought that he would make it an exciting fight. And like I said, when you get tapped on the shoulder, when you finally get your chance to fight for a world title, you have to show up in a big way. And unfortunately for everyone involved, that's not what we got tonight. You know, this fight opened up and both of these men felt the power from the other in the opening round. And maybe that's what turned out to be the curse. Each man felt that power early, and it made them extra cautious because they knew what was coming back. They knew what one small mistake could possibly have in store for them. In the short term, Zorrilla actually got the better of it because, in my opinion, he got robbed of a knockdown. He landed this beautiful lead right hand, caught Prograis flush. Prograis starts to fall back. But the problem is that Zorrilla kind of falls in behind it. You know, he kind of follows in behind it too much. He allows Prograis, who's falling down, to be able to grab him. Makes it look like a slip. Maybe their feet gets tangled. It's kind of, the referee ends up calling it a push. Either way, long story short, ends up not being ruled a knockdown. But I think Prograis got lucky with that one. If Zorrilla would have just been able to keep his balance, or if he even would have been able to land that shot and then kind of pull back, that would have been a 10-8 round because Prograis was going down. Even when he was interviewed in the ring after the fight, he kind of chuckled a little bit. He watched the replay. He said, look, the way I'm looking at it now, it looks like it should have been ruled a knockdown. So, you know, it's just one of those things that kind of, it is what it is. Now, I ended up giving the second round to Zorrilla too, and it's not very often that you see a guy come into a fight 16-1 favorite, 17-1 favorite, and he ends up losing the first 2 rounds of the fight, especially when you take into consideration the knockdown. But you could tell right away, it's you know, styles make fights, and you could tell by looking at this one that it was going to be a difficult fight. And I said going in, you know, Zorrilla was being underrated. He had a very good right hand, good timing, good distance control. That's the kind of stuff that we were seeing early on. Now, Prograis ended up scoring a knockdown of his own in the 3rd round. You know, comes in, lands a solid left hand. But ultimately, the story of this fight wasn't the action. The story of this fight wasn't the explosiveness. It was the lack of action. Zorrilla had this game plan where he's coming in, he's using constant lateral movement, he's backing up, he's being very evasive, very non-confrontational, and all he's doing is trying to pick and poke and trying to find ways to land this right hand, doing a lot of clinching when he's getting in close, very low on punch output, constantly on the move. And to be perfectly honest, Prograis had trouble with the movement. He couldn't track him down. He couldn't cut off the ring. He just wasn't able to get in there and land any big shots. Wasn't able to figure out ways to get inside and use that jab in any way. And it just resulted in a really ugly fight. You know, on top of that, Prograis mentions that it was super stressful fighting in his hometown. So I think you just had a lot of factors that kind of all came together in a perfect way to make this fight a dud. And look, it happens sometimes, right? Not every fight is going to be great. But with Prograis himself mentioning that he needs to get into the gym, he needs to work on it, that footwork is a hole in his game. You know, you get a guy in there like Devin Haney, a guy that Prograis specifically mentioned post-fight as a potential opponent. You get a guy in there like Devin Haney that not only can he move, not only is he long, but he has got a phenomenal jab, just really aggressive, really sound. That's going to look a lot different. That's going to look a lot different than a man like Zorrilla who's on the outside making it inactive. It's going to be a guy who's on the outside moving around with the feet that you still can't cut the ring off on, that you still can't corner, except now he's constantly peppering you with that jab, just racking up points, just controlling the distance, controlling everything. So something to keep in mind. Deep in his heart, Prograis knows he's got to work on it, but ultimately, a win is a win. He's still got the belt. He is still in the hunt for big fights. Now, I thought some of the cards were a little bit wide, but hey, we know what it is. You got the A side of the fight here in Prograis. He's the champion. He's fighting in his hometown. We knew that the odds of him losing this fight on the cards were slim to none. This was going to have to be a situation where Zorrilla was able to come out there and really put a stamp on it. And that's not what happened. It goes to the cards and we get a wide decision. But ultimately, going into this one, the question was always, what's going to be next? And coming out of this one, the question still remains what's going to be next. He said in the ring that he's open to fighting anybody 140 pounds. He specifically mentioned a few big names. The only guy that he mentioned that he said absolutely not, I do not want to fight, was Rolly Romero. Everybody else is potentially opponent, I guess, except for Rolly Romero. Said that one he was not interested in. So he motioned at Eddie, pointed at him, said it'll be interesting to see what my promoter can put together for me. So, look, 140 pounds has a lot of buzz right now. It's got a lot of names on it. It's got a lot of names that could make a lot of potentially lucrative fights. Got a lot of names out there for people trying to snatch up some names on their resume and have some superstardom potentially. So it'll be interesting to see what's next for each man and where they go from this. What did you guys think of this one? Obviously not his best performance, but every performance can't be your best performance. Do you think he's going to be ready for the biggest names at 140 pounds? Do you think he can compete? Who do you think out there would give him the most trouble? Let me know what you guys think.